Welcome, everyone, to another episode of The Good Gig, a podcast where we celebrate careers. I'm your host, Frank Stewart, and I'm here with my co-host and good buddy, Jay Anseth. Jay, how are you doing?
Doing well, Frank. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So Jay and I are excited to welcome our guest, Nicole Leffer, who's joining us from Atlanta, well, remotely from Atlanta, Georgia.
So good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure, Nicole. So Nicole is here to talk to us about the industry of AI, at least to some degree. So Nicole is a marketing expert, a consultant, and I'm going to use the word entrepreneur in the artificial intelligence space. And I guess space is a very loose term, so is industry. And I use the term industry, I think, purposefully because AI, at least in my opinion, is like this huge thing that everybody's dealing with that has many, many different dimensions. And I think most people, when they hear the word AI, they think about somebody sitting in front of a computer writing code or somebody throwing water on really hot servers or something.
And I have neither of those things
Neither of
at
those.
all.
Right. So that's why I use the word industry, because there's all these other aspects to artificial intelligence and how it's seeping into society and business that I think are really cool and probably overlooked by a lot of people. And I think, Nicole, you fit kind of one of those niches. So I'm going to let you kind of explain, after me rambling for a really long time, like how you would characterize your job.
So I have a job that I have self-created, so I don't know that it fits into some very specific pigeonhole of like, what would you call this? But essentially, I train marketing teams at companies from Series A startups. So, they have some venture capital, some private equity funding, but they're small and new through Fortune 50 companies, some of the biggest household brand names in the world. And I train their marketing teams on how to use generative AI tools. So tools like, if you've heard of ChatGPT or Claude or Microsoft Copilot, Google Gemini, those tools that anybody can access, they have them at a business scale. Like all of those tools have business level accounts. And I teach marketing teams specifically and marketers specifically how to leverage those tools in their day-to-day work. So I am not making AI. I am not programming AI. I am teaching people how to apply the tools that exist to what they do in their jobs. And so that's the bulk of my work. And it's all remote. It's all webinars with companies all over the world, different time zones. A lot of times it's remote distributed teams I'm working with, but whether they're remote or in person, I am always remote when I'm working with them. And then, so that's the bulk of what I do. I also have companies that I'm actually working directly with the chief marketing officer to help them with their AI adoption strategy, and help them learn, build their strategies around how they want to be applying AI, choosing their tools, how their teams are going to be using it. So that is some of what I do. And then I have like an online course that teaches people that I just built an online course that people go through. And then the other part of my job is marketing myself, essentially. So it's an eclectic mix because I am an entrepreneur, but I'm really in the applied AI, and specifically when we talk about AI, it's generative AI tools. So it's not all ChatGPT, but it's the same category of tools as ChatGPT.
Okay, so can you define generative AI?
Absolutely, because AI is brand new to all of us. So most people might not be familiar with that term. There's really, with AI, there's different types of artificial intelligence. There's the AI that goes out and does like all the data crunching and number crunching and all of that stuff. Like I don't touch any of that, like predictive analytics or any of that. That is not for me. Generative AI is essentially computer algorithms that have gone out and learned from massive amounts of data. And then from that learning, they can generate or create new things. So you can type in a request of it in just natural English language or whatever language you speak, and it will do what you ask of it. And it could be generating anything. It could be generating text. So it could be like writing emails for you, or blog posts, or whatever kind of marketing content you want. It could be creating images, it could be creating videos, there's song ones, like you can create music from scratch, like anything where it is generating something new falls into this umbrella of generative AI. Now, there starts to get to be certain little overlaps with generative AI where it can start to get into some of the data stuff, but it's more that the AI is generating code. So it's writing code to do data analysis or things like that, rather than like it's actually doing the data analysis. So it starts to get a little bit complicated of what is and isn't generative AI, but it's really where it is creating something, whether that is text, imagery, video, music, code, anything like that. It's making something new based off of your requests of it.
Okay. Okay. And so your niche is really specific to the marketing aspect of companies then.
For the most part, like I would say 90% of what I do is the marketing side of like applying this technology in marketing. But I do have like some clients that have asked me to come in and teach like general business AI, generative AI skills to their wider company or to like the entire business side of the company. So like marketing, sales, customer service, like all of the non-engineer, because I'm not a coder. I don't know how to code myself. So I have done a lot of work that is beyond marketing as well, but the vast majority, like my real expertise in it, my deepest expertise is marketing. The thing with this space that I'm in is even beyond marketing, like there's just not a lot of deep expertise in how to use this technology. So because I understand how to use the technology in a business application, period, it's very translatable, which is why I can come in and teach like, how to do wider business skills with the tech. And I use it all day, every day for my own business beyond marketing as well.
So what technology specifically are you referring to?
So the biggest things that companies are having me come in and train their teams on would be ChatGPT, because tons of companies have like enterprise or team ChatGPT accounts, which is very different from the free version that like individuals might use. It's more like the paid version individuals can get, but there's extra security and things that happen for a business side. So a lot of them, it's teaching them how
Sorry
to
to
use.
interrupt, but ChatGPT is generative AI specifically for text, correct? Or
No. So ChatGPT actually, it does text, it can create images, it can see, it can create verbal, like it can have verbal conversations. It can write code, it can execute code. So it can do a lot more than just text-based within ChatGPT at that, like those higher, like those paid levels that businesses are using. So it's a lot deeper than just text generation. It is a large language model, so it is, or using large language models, so it is text-based, but it is not all just text. And then I also will teach companies how to use the models that power ChatGPT to do like automated stuff. It's not actually ChatGPT. It's still OpenAI, which is the same company, but it's their AI models that you can build out like automations that do things on their own without a human having to have a constant conversation back and forth. So I'll teach some companies that are more advanced. They have to be a little bit more advanced to be at the point of building out automations to run business functions without the human involved. But yeah, so that's like those tools. And then there's other similar tools, like Google has what's called Gemini, which is their kind of equivalent to ChatGPT. Microsoft has Copilot, which is their equivalent. It's different. They're different tools, but they're kind of similar. So I'll teach companies how to use those. Depends on the company and what tools they have approved, because not every company allows just any tool to be used. So they usually have their technology that's approved. And so I'll work with them. And then a lot of them have their own like in-house tools that they have built. And so I'll help them understand how to use their own technology they've built as well.
So Nicole, would you say that when you consult for a company, like I'm thinking of the very first meeting, are the employees there, are they receptive? Are they excited to work with you, or do they feel threatened in some way?
I think with me personally, I think most of them are excited.
Yeah.
A lot of my clients are in the tech space. So most of my clients are in the tech space. So I think there's like a little bit more excitement and openness probably for people that work in tech to begin with, even though they're non-technical roles, because it's marketing. They are in the industry. So it's maybe like they feel a little bit more excited about it. But I find that most people that I am working with, specifically within marketing, do recognize that AI is kind of one of these things where either you have to learn how to use it to stay relevant, or you're going to lose your job. It's not that they're worried that the AI is going to replace them. It's that they're worried that if they don't have the skills to use the AI, then people who know how to use it are going to replace them. Now, long term, I don't really know. I don't think any of us have the crystal ball to know exactly where that's going. But I think that the vast majority of people I'm working with kind of have that recognition. But I will say, I mean, there's definitely those that have resistance. It's not like I don't encounter resistance. Obviously, not the people who are hiring me.
Right.
It's the CMOs, like they're really excited to bring me in, or whoever is paying for me to come and be doing this work and working with me. Usually they're very excited about me being there. Sometimes there's, a couple of people on their team who are resistant, but usually once they're actually understanding how important they are in the process, they really are
Nice.
like excited. And to be honest, like I love my job because I'm giving people skills to be able to protect their jobs. Like, I don't see this as like, I find what I'm doing to be very important because I am enabling people to have as much career longevity as they can and protection. If you don't learn how to use this technology and you work in marketing, you're not going to have a job. Like, it's just like, I mean, it's not going to be that long before nobody will hire somebody without generative AI skills. And so I really see this as, the equivalent of not having learned to use the internet. Like, I remember it as a kid that there were people who didn't want to learn to use Google. They didn't want to learn how to use email. And they didn't keep their jobs. And, like if they worked in office type of jobs, they got left behind. And AI is like a very similar thing. So for me, it's meaningful work because I'm helping people protect their career, their job security, their careers, and give them the opportunity, like those that really take what they're learning and really run with it. Like they have the opportunity to grow in their career in a way that people who aren't learning this technology and aren't taking advantage of these opportunities right now are not going to have. So it feels meaningful to work with people, regardless of where I don't know where the technology is really going in job security in the future. But I know that for the time being, those who know how to use the technology are going to be way better positioned in their lives and in their careers than those that don't. And so I find a lot of meaning in that. And I think that comes through when I'm working with people, that they recognize I'm doing it because I want to help them, not because I want to replace them. So I think you'd get a lot more threatened people if you were like, we're coming in to show you how to replace yourself, or, that kind of thing.
Right. Is your response to Jay's question, which is very thoughtful and seems completely appropriate, is that built into your messaging? Like, do you feel like you have to kind of proactively address those concerns that somebody may lose their job because of AI? Or is this something that you kind of talk to people about if they bring it up?
It depends on the company and the CMO and or the marketing leader that hires me and how they want me to frame it. Most of them don't want to scare their teams. Like, I have a couple that are like, scare my team, and I'm like, are you sure? That's not really my style. But I mean, it's definitely like, I build like most of my marketing, like a lot of my time is building my LinkedIn presence, and I post a ton on there. And I think it just like naturally, not even intentionally, like coming through in my stuff that I post in there, but it's just part of who I am and my motivation, and I'm authentic in what I post. So it does come through in that messaging. So I think the type of clients I'm attracting are kind of aligned with that. And then they will sometimes be like, hey, at the beginning of the training, make sure that they know that you're not going to replace them. I usually have at least like a little bit of a, like, you are very important in this process. This is not to replace you.
So just to summarize, you've become an expert on the utilization of the most common and powerful AI tools, and you interface with clients to show people how to use these tools to make their marketing more efficient, more effective, more visible. And you do that through what format? So how do you interface with your clients?
Zoom. Use for the Zoom or similar to Zoom, Microsoft
Okay.
Teams, Google Meet, that kind of thing. Almost all of it, I mean, it is all remote at this point. Everything I'm doing, it allows me to work with a lot more clients than if you're traveling and getting on airplanes and having to be in person. So everything I'm doing is on a computer, or email, Slack, that kind of thing. But for the most part, it's just like we're talking right now.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it's kind of you in front of a virtual classroom of probably many people at a time, or is this one-on-one type of
So
training?
what's really fun about what I do is I get the variety of like all of the above. So I have some clients that I do one-on-one coaching for the CMO or for somebody on their team that they really want to be kind of like the AI lead. And then I have others, like the vast majority of what I'm doing is like full marketing teams, which could be anywhere from 8 or 10 people to 150 people, depending on the size of the company. I mean, I've even had some that are small as 2 or 3 people, but it goes all the way up to the big, huge companies. They got a lot of people on their marketing team.
So I'm having a little bit of difficulty just phrasing my question. So I come from an engineering background. I spend most of my time working in a chemical lab. So I'm just woefully ignorant, but very interested in what you're talking about here. So could you maybe provide just some examples? So you talk about marketing strategies. So to me, somebody who's kind of like a marketing dunce, I just think of like jingles. And I love jingles and like
We can make a
slogans,
jingle with AI. Want to make a
So
jingle with AI? I can make one right now.
so so that's why I was hesitant to ask my question because I'm
Yeah.
kind of sounding like yeah. But anyway, but can you maybe provide some examples of like how you would employ this tool and like maybe in ways that somebody who's not as like marketing savvy would I'm sure there's just a wide variety of things I'm just like completely unaware of.
Right. Yeah. So most of my clients are business to business. So they are companies that sell to other companies. So the style of marketing is going to be a bit different than if you're selling to consumers. I mean, I work with some that are selling to consumers, but the vast majority are, even if it's like a household name of a company, like all the big companies have also business to business departments. And a lot of that is what I work with. But there's lots of different marketing strategies, but the biggest thing is marketing is responsible for one, generating maintaining the websites, right? Like every website you see is run by a marketing team. So it's creating all of the different content you see on a website, writing all of the copy, creating blogs, creating videos, creating all of those assets that you as the public interact with. They're also creating any kind of advertising. So Google ads, Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, Meta, Instagram, any of that. Marketing is creating all of that.
All
Uh,
these things I take for granted and don't think
all
about.
these things you just
Yeah.
see in your day-to-day life, right? Like it's just like you interact with them. Social media posts, anytime a company posts, like not the ads, but like they're posting on any social media sites, that's all going to be owned by the marketing team. So whether that is LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, X, I refuse to call it X, any of the social media sites, like that's all owned by marketing. And then there's also like within the B2B space, especially, so that's business to business, we call B2B. You're gonna have all of like they'll do a lot of webinars and things like that. So they'll be doing stuff for prospective clients or existing clients, things like that. Email marketing, like I'm sure you get lots of emails from
Yeah.
companies all the time trying to sell you stuff. And then in the world that I operate in, a lot of these companies are also creating like ebooks or white papers, which are like really big documents with like stuff that's really relevant to their clients to help them in their business that also serve to sell their product. So maybe it's like a cybersecurity company and they do a white paper on a specific topic in cybersecurity that's really relevant to their product, but it's also educational to their clients on what to do. And then you also have all the like understanding your audience stuff, right? So you've got to like build out personas, which are like the definition, like who actually buys from us? Like, what is their role? What is that person like? What's their education? What's their knowledge level? Like all of their psychographics, demographics, all of that, like understanding who that is you're talking to and being able to work with that. And then giving that information to the sales team and like building slide decks to sell for the sales team. So there's like so much that goes
Yeah.
into it. So where AI comes into it, marketing is one area where AI is so useful because it's generative AI is at the point it can really help across the board on marketing, but drafting any of the copy for any of those things, AI can help with. Creating graphics, videos, sound, any of that for any of those things AI can help with, but it can also help with the like research side. So it can help with like understanding who is that ideal customer? What do they like? What are they interested in? Where do they get their information? What questions might they have? Can help formulate all of that. It can help write code for their designs of their website. It can do so many things. And then it can also just build strategy. Like the AI is so smart at this point. I mean, ChatGPT, like the tool you could buy for $20 a month, right? Like not the free version can do it to a degree, but like the paid version that you could buy, it could build out entire business plans and marketing strategies around how to reach your ideal client and the path that they need to go through to actually spend their money with you and like help you put together entire strategies around it. So it's across the board. There are so many things. And I didn't even get into there's like the analysis side of like how do you optimize things to perform better? Because that's also part of marketing. Once you create the first version, how do you keep making it do better? Meaning how do you make it make you more money? So it can help with all of that as well. Like coming
So
up.
just as like a little sliver of an example from what you said. So it's creating content for your website, and then it's like monitoring web traffic or something, and it might adjust what it's putting out based on
So,
the
I mean,
results.
technically the AI could do it. It's not quite advanced enough to like really do a great job on the ongoing monitoring and stuff. It's
Okay.
really you're going to collaborate with it, right? So you're going to be like, we're creating this page on our website. This is what we want to do with it. Like, this is our goals with it. This is who we're going to show it to. So you as the human will be giving it all of that information. And then the AI helps you write the content and the copy that is in alignment with those goals and put it together. So it just cuts your time down and improves the quality when it's almost like two really smart minds working together instead of one really smart mind working on it by themselves. And
Now
then
let me
so like that piece, and then like when stuff exists, you could then like give a screenshot of that page to the AI and be like, now how can we fix the design or improve the copy to optimize so more people take the behavior we want it to? And so like ChatGPT could look at that page and be like, okay, like you should change the language on that button to download that ebook and you should make it say this instead because it's more likely to get more downloads. Or if you change the color, you change the position, you do because it has so much training knowledge of what people respond to. Or maybe it'll look at the page and be like, you really need a testimonial on that page. Like you really need to appeal to that person that you're trying to appeal to. You need to have an existing client talk about why they love it. That's missing on the page. And it'll tell you what to add in to improve the quality of the results you get. But you're still involved. It's not just going to go like off on its own and do all of it today. Next week, maybe, but today, no.
Yeah. Yeah, when you explain it in that way, it really does come across more as a tool, and you can not being part of marketing, you can see where an experienced marketer would really still feel very valued in that situation.
Yeah. And it really like, anybody can write a prompt and tell the AI what to do, but not anybody can write a good prompt to get the
Yeah.
AI to do a good job on it. And that's what I really help people understand. Like, how do you actually give it directions and understand what it's capable of in a way that you're bringing your own expertise and then asking it to do the things to help you do even better at your own job, and it becomes their assistant and not their replacement.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of the knowledge bases that you need to keep under your umbrella to do this job. And you must have a business background. I mean, that's apparent. Like you need to understand how businesses are operated and what their key objectives are. You need to clearly understand marketing, and then you need to stay on top of the AI technology. how do you do all of that?
I don't know. I have a lot of AI to help me with my job. Um, so yeah, I come from a background like the prior to this, I owned my own company. It was an e-commerce company, nothing to do with AI. But we did both business to consumer, which was, just we sold to individuals that wanted to buy our products. We also sold to business, all online. But I did that for 15 years. So I have a online background, like, online business background. I know how to run a business. I have the foundation to understand, like, what do you need to do on bookkeeping and taxes and like all of the things that just go into running your own business, which is a lot. Like, and it made doing this much, much easier because I already have learned a lot of the lessons over a long period of time. And I did it in the tech industry. I kind of grew up, so to speak, in e-commerce, which was a rapidly evolving industry to begin with. Not like AI is. I think AI is like 100 times the pace e-commerce did. But the business side and the marketing side, I really learned in that business. And then when I left that, I became a marketing consultant for a little while. And then I worked as the head of marketing at a B2B SaaS company. So one of these tech companies, that's basically what my clients are now. And when I was there, I was the head of marketing. So again, I have the marketing foundation, my education, my knowledge base. I'm not just like going in trying to teach companies how to do something that I don't know with AI that I don't know inside out to begin with. And I think if you're going to go be an AI consultant, you need to do it in an area where you have expertise in that area without AI. And then you're figuring out how do you bring AI and apply it to that. So because if you don't have the knowledge, like nobody's going to trust you to give them the advice, even if you understand the AI side.
Sure.
You really kind of need to be able to marry both of those pieces. So when I was at this tech company that I was the head of marketing at, I actually happened to bring on AI tools really early, like my first week. I was like looking for a solution for an issue we were having on our team that I could tell very quickly was something I was going to need to solve for in this role, and happened to find AI tools. Now, this was way before it was something everybody was talking about in general in the day-to-day world. And so this was in 2020. What is this, 2024 right now? It was 2021. I don't even know when that's. So it was in 2021. And so I brought on these AI tools and I fell in love with the technology. I started trying to figure out how to use it every day in my own work. And I had my team using it in their work. And I was like, we were kind of hacking around what the tools we were using were made for and figuring out how to use them for all kinds of things. This was before ChatGPT was even like a thing, like did not exist. Nobody had heard of it. I did that for a year in that company. When I left that company, we went separate ways. I was like, this AI technology is so cool. I was like, I can't believe nobody else seems to know this exists. I was in a Slack community of chief marketing officers that are all in the tech industry, and I would share the stuff I was doing with AI, and it was like, crickets. Like like nobody would ever respond to anything. I was like, I can't believe everybody's not obsessed with this. So I was like, I got to learn as much as I can. Kept sharing it while I was trying to figure out. I was actually looking for another CMO job. And I kept sharing it. And then ChatGPT came out. And because I was in this world of like learning as much as I could, I heard about it in the first couple of days, was on there, was sharing all of this with these CMOs. And then suddenly it started being like in the news. And somebody went, I think that Nicole knows something about this AI technology and how it works with marketing. She has been like annoying us for like a year and a half. Like, she does not shut up about it. We've all ignored her, but I think she knows something. And he said, hey, would you mind going on a Zoom call and showing a couple of us what you know? I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm thinking a couple, what's that, 2, 3? Like what, 4? Maybe he said a few. I don't know. But I'm thinking there's gonna be like 4 people. 100 CMOs signed up for that call. I was like, oh, I better build a slide deck for this. Like, I better actually like take this seriously. So I just built a slide deck, get on this call, show all these CMOs how to use ChatGPT. This was before they even had a paid version. This is like free ChatGPT. And the next thing I know, I like literally get off the Zoom and I'm getting Slack messages and LinkedIn messages from chief marketing officers saying, can I pay you to come in and teach my team exactly what you just did? Like to just do the exact same thing you just did, but in my company for my team. And I was like, I do not have a job. Yes, you can pay me for that. And I was like still like, you know, interviewing for roles. Like I wasn't even thinking about starting another business. I actually, it's funny, when I left my original business I had for 15 years, I was like, I am done working for myself. Never again. I will not go down that path. And I did the consulting thing for a minute, but I was like, I don't want to be a consultant. I hate being a consultant. This sucks. Like, I don't want anything to do with that. And so I really thought I was going to be a chief marketing officer again and like, you know, going down that route in-house at a company. These CMOs were like, would you come teach my team? I did the first one. And the CMO said, why are you looking for a job? You should be doing this full time. And I was like, no, 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 I want a job. Second one, why are you looking for a job? You should be doing this full time. And I was like, no, 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 I want a job. Third one said, why are you looking for a job? And I was like, I have no idea. This is really fun. And so I just kind of made an agreement with myself. As long as I was making money at it and having fun and loving it, I was going to do it. And so it's been almost 2 years at this point, and I still love it. But it is hard to keep up with it. And I never answered the last part of that question, which was keeping up with the AI part. And that is the hardest thing about the role, because AI is like breakneck speed how fast it changes and how fast new things come out. And you don't have any idea. It's like I had actually a friend sending me a thing that OpenAI is doing for the next 12 days. That's the people who make ChatGPT. Starting tomorrow, they're doing like 12 days of new features. And I was like, oh God, this is great. And also, oh God, because I have to drop whatever to find out what on earth is going on, and live streams every day with new stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh. I had to narrow down what tools are like really important to know what's going on, what companies are really important to follow, and accepting like there's no way to know everything about everything. And so like really learning how to identify what's going to be hype and what's going to be really important to understand and know, what's going to have staying power, what's just gonna go by the wayside and it's just like social media hype cycle. And so I have that, and I just pay attention to like the core stuff that's really important. And then I also read research papers when they come out. So I read a lot of research, or AI reads a lot of research papers and helps me identify which research papers I need to actually read. I have that, and that's the other thing. I use AI a lot to help me with my company. Like I have a lot more automated AI processes for myself than most of my clients will ever have, probably, or will have for quite a long time.
Could you maybe give an example of that? So do you mean you have AI like look for certain types of articles that come out and then basically give you a synopsis of that? Is that what you mean?
So I don't have it actually look for the articles. Like I pay attention to what's getting published and decide what I want it to read. But like I have that's not actually really an automation. But I will, just because of where the technology is, and probably by next year I'll be able to automate it, but just being able to build an easy automation where it can like read the graphs and stuff gets a little complicated. But I will take the PDF, like when the study comes out, I will put it into an AI. I have a prompt that is written to have it read, analyze, explain the paper to me, pull out the key points based off of what I need to know, and
Okay.
tell me how it would be relevant to marketing specifically. And then based on that, like I'll be able to go, because you know, this maybe is like a 30-page, 40-page paper in pretty dense, like science-y written stuff that I understand. I was a psychology major and I like had to take like research psych classes. So I can navigate a research paper, but and like stats and stuff, but I'm like not a scientist. So it takes me some work to read that kind of paper. So I will have the AI read it, do all that sorting and explain it to me. And then I'll look at that synopsis that's exactly how I've asked it to be written. And then I can go, okay, yes, this is one that's actually got content in it that's going to be relevant for me to read it. or not. So I would say like maybe 20% I actually want to fully read, but I make that call. I don't let the AI make that call for me.
Right.
Automations wise, I'll have like the AI, like it automates like a lot of my onboarding process for my training. So I'll have my clients fill out an onboarding questionnaire, and then the AI will go through that questionnaire, and it knows like it'll put together essentially like the list of things I'm going to need from them to complete the training. Something that, used to take me an hour and a half, 2 hours to do manually. The AI does it 30 seconds after they have submitted it. So I can just send them the assets I need. So things like that, I'm able to do. I still check it. I look at it and make sure the AI did it right, but I don't have to do everything manually. My social media posts, I like literally take my cell phone, I talk to it about the idea and submit it, and it sends it through an automation that writes it all in my voice. And then it emails me a copy. So I can maybe talk for 2 or 3 minutes about what I want my post to be about, just rambling like I am right now. And it'll email me a copy of the content that I just need to do a few copy edits to, and I can post it. So stuff like that is when I'm talking about like having automations that I've built to run my business.
I mean, there's a lot of things that I find really interesting and valuable about your story. You started a career kind of mid-career, and that new career is completely different than what you were doing before,
Yeah.
which is pretty amazing. Like not too many people can do that or have the guts to do that. Another thing that I find really interesting here is kind of how you built it. Like you described the knowledge bases that you have. One of them is kind of founded on experiential learning that came through prior jobs, and the other is kind of built on self-learning. Like you grab these tools, these new tools, and just started playing around with them and got good at them. And that's something that almost anybody can do if they have the willpower and the like the prescience to do it. And then I guess the last thing that I find really interesting is that this moment that you've kind of capitalized on is something that everybody sees, like the emergence of AI now seeping into almost every aspect of society. But most people are kind of sitting on the sidelines of that and not taking action. And it takes, again, the ability to see how important this is and then acting upon that. And kind of all of those elements kind of come together in your story, which I find really compelling.
And we're in a really unique time with this technology, because even though now, I mean, I'm over 3 years into using it at this point, but like I'm like barely over 3 years into using it. And I am considered like the expert in my space in this technology
Yeah, that's
because I have 3 years of experience. And that is wild. Like if you really think about that, like what other areas would a 3 years of expertise or 3 years of experience even using something or doing something qualify you as an expert? But because the technology is so new, and especially applying the technology is so new, it gives this opportunity even today. Like even if you've never used it, if you started really diving into learning how to use it today, you could become like so much more educated just by yourself. There's so many resources out there. It's much easier for you today to start than it was for me, because I had to figure it out without any resources out there. But like if you really start today, like you could become an actual expert at this in your field. Maybe you wouldn't be, unless you're a marketing person, you're probably not going to become the expert for marketing. But the other piece of this is there are like marketing's probably further ahead in this than almost any other like business area. Because it is like just where the technology is evolving, it just so naturally fits into marketing. So it's a huge thing. But the technology is evolving in every single career field. It is going to be a part of every single job, whether it's already started to seep into your job or not. It's going to be in every single job. So if you take it upon yourself to become the expert of applying what you do now with AI, or applying AI to what you do now, and how can you capitalize on this, and what do you need to do to capitalize on it, or in your industry, like operating businesses in your industry or in your education, if you're in education, whatever it is, you can easily become the expert for your niche, because that's where I've succeeded. I became the expert for my very specific niche. I'm not just doing marketing, I'm doing B2B SaaS tech marketing. It's very specific. And that's why I've done really well with it. And it's also why I've been able to like figure out how do I learn it, because I didn't have to learn the marketing side. I only had to learn the AI side and how to bring it together. So it's a unique time in history that anybody could do this. I'm in AI communities, and there's a lot of people doing this kind of thing in all different kinds of industries. So
So what's a good AI community? Just going to like Chat GPT and doing this, or how does one start doing what you're suggesting?
it's obviously going to depend on your industry and what you're applying it to. LinkedIn is a great place to kind of find the expertise within your space of how people are using it within whatever area you want to apply it to. So like within education or within the sciences, there's going to be people who have really started to I mean, because we are a few years into this technology being out there now. So there will be those that have figured it out that you can start learning from. And then like I'm in a AI community called the AI Exchange. So it's just like other people use AI, and we are in the Slack community. We'll have like Zoom meetups and stuff. But there's lots of different I mean, you could probably even find them on LinkedIn or find them on Google, like find the ChatGPT could probably research it for you, or Perplexity could research it for you to find a good community that would be a fit for you. And there's probably the other pieces if you're in like Slack communities for your industry. Like there's a lot of different industry-based Slack community, like people who have a similar profession to you. There might be a channel within those communities you're already a member of where people who are using AI are communicating about how they're using AI within that space. And then that can be like a path to find the stuff that's super relevant for you.
Nicole, can you describe a typical day for you and maybe some of the goods and the low points of that day?
Yeah, so I have a pretty cush life. I'm not gonna lie, because I work from home and I can like set my own schedule. So I like to sleep in. So I'll sleep in, I'll get up, and I tend to like meditate, kind of set myself for my day. I usually have at least a few Zoom meetings throughout the day, maybe some with prospective clients. I might have a training that I'm doing, like a remote training that I'm doing. Lots of emails to work on. Usually do at least one LinkedIn post throughout some point during the day. Usually that ends up being at the end of the day. And then depending on what I have coming up, I'll have to like work on slide decks and preparing stuff. Depending on how much of that stuff I have going on of meetings, training, slide deck preparation, because it depends. Some days I'm doing slide decks, some days I'm not. Some days I have training, some days I don't. So really depends on what my meeting schedule and that kind of stuff is. And then when I have free time in my schedule, I will go through the communities I'm in, LinkedIn, company updates, those kinds of things to see new things that are coming out. I try to look at the social medias for the big AI companies every day just to make sure I know if anything has happened. I also have a lot of community members who are friends that'll like send me stuff that's new. So I tend to get notified whether I'm intending to or not. I'll get messages. So that sounds like a really busy day. That's probably like a bunch of different days combined into one that I just gave you. There's no such truly typical day. Got a lot of emails, Slack stuff, just different communities. And then there are days where it is like, oh, look, I don't have that much on my calendar and there's nothing like pressing that I have to do today. I'm going for a walk. Well, I try to go for a walk in my space, but like I'm going to do some yoga in my living room. I'm just going to relax because if I don't owe anybody anything and there's nothing pressing, then I've tried to it's been some work, but I'm trying to unpack the like need to be a workaholic. Because I think I like was raised in America where we value ourselves based off of how much work we do every single day. And I'm trying to unlearn some of that and realize that like it's okay not to be working all day, every minute of every day.
How does your day-to-day now compare to like when you had your e-commerce business or when you're a consultant? What's the main difference about what you're doing now?
I don't have employees, which I no, let me be clear in case somehow any of them hear that I loved the people who worked for me. I've always loved the employees that worked for me. I loved the employees that worked for me at the tech company I was the head of marketing for. Like I've always loved that. However, having employees is very stressful. And it's
Yeah,
not about them. It's
yeah,
about being the person, like when you own the business and you have people on a payroll and
right.
you're responsible for making sure that not just you can pay your bills, but every one of them gets paid, they can pay their bills. Like it's stressful.
Yeah, that
And
makes sense.
so I was like just always, even when business was good, it was stressful to always be worried about like how is the money going to keep coming in. And
Yeah.
so that was the biggest reason that I was like, and just like I never knew what fire was gonna happen. Like on any given day. I mean, it was fun because it was a constant adrenaline rush. It was funny because like a few years out, I was like, I kind of miss like the unexpected fires. I never thought I would miss them, but like they were fun in a way because it's constant problem solving. But whether it was a website going down or a tech problem or somebody being out sick unexpectedly or product issues, like whatever happened, there was always some kind of fire I had to put out
Yeah.
in that business. So it was just it was a physical product. I had a physical location I had to go to, even though I work sometimes from home. It was not the same. And I had lots of other people's livelihoods I was responsible for. So it was just a stress level that was like too much for me. When I did the other kind of consulting I was doing, I think it was the idea of like, I didn't want to be chasing business. I like initially, like when I was just like, I just want to know I have a steady paycheck. And like, that was why I was like, I just don't want to do this.
Yeah.
I want to work for a company. I want to work for lots of different companies. And also, I just don't think I was excited about the consulting I was doing. And so it wasn't worth it. When I was in-house at a company, it was the first time in my actual adult life that I had like a supervisor. Like anybody, even though I was like in a leadership role, I still had somebody to answer to. And I was dealing with like bureaucracy and stuff. And I was like, wait, people do this? Like, wait, what is this HR thing you all deal with? But this company has been so different because I have consciously not hired employees. And like I could have a much bigger company if I did hire employees.
Yeah.
However, every time I'm like, do I need to hire someone? I go, do you want the stress? As much as I loved having them, I was like, do I,
Right.
like I used to aspire to this idea of I want as big a company as I can with as many people as I can. Like that felt like my definition of success.
Yeah.
And now my definition of success is like, I only have to be responsible for me.
Yeah.
Like I make really good money for myself, but now it's like if I think like I should hire somebody, I go, you have lots of employees. They're all artificial and they help you get done so much more than you could in a day. Can you build an automation to do that? Like, can you build an automation to do the thing you don't want to do? Or how can you like push yourself to use AI faster or better to do this? Or in 2 months, is the AI going to be there? Like, even if it's not there today, how fast will it be? And what I don't want to do is hire somebody and then have to lay them off because that
Right.
is the
Yeah.
worst experience I ever had. Is like anything that affected somebody else's livelihood way worse than affecting your own. So that's the last thing I want to do. So I've just consciously decided not to. So I'm only responsible for me. Luckily, I got into what I'm doing at a time where it was very early. I established a brand for myself somewhat inadvertently. And like, I haven't had to chase business. I'm doing good marketing, right? Like I have a good website. I do tons of podcasts, not normally like this, but I do tons of podcast interviews. I have very consistent LinkedIn. I do lots of speaking engagements. So I am doing marketing, but I'm not doing sales. I'm not going out like begging people to work with me. It's like, I just put out good content that is stuff I'm passionate about that I love. And then people email me and they're like, I want to work with you. And I'm like, this works.
So I do have a nuts and bolts question related to this. So I'm very interested, like from us for someone who's self-employed, because I read about this where it's you're providing tremendous value to people, And I think people who are self-employed have a difficult time assessing or like trying to figure out how to, they almost feel guilty charging money, or like, or they're very concerned about a perception of overcharging. And what is your attitude, or what is your thought on how to decide, like what to charge? Just, I mean, it's kind of very.
This is something I have evolved on significantly. And I think there's like been a lot of personal growth. I do a lot of personal growth work. I've always been like I think like to be in business by yourself, you have to constantly be working on yourself because you don't have a lot of the like framework that you have when you work for somebody else, right? Like you have a lot you have to understand about yourself and how to keep yourself on track and motivated and paying your bills and all of that. So I've had to unpack a lot of like guilt around money or those kinds of ideas that you're talking about. But a few things that I have learned over my own career as a business owner and just like in how I've spent my money and gotten value from my money, and also just what I've seen in other people. When you don't pay for something, you don't value it. And it's worth as much to the buyer as what they spend on it in general. And that's just human nature, right? So if you did not pay me for my time, you're not going to value anything that I tell you. And if you pay me a little for my time, you're going to value it a little. And if you pay me a lot for my time, you're going to value it a lot. And I know I'm providing extraordinary value. Now, many years ago in my first business, like early in my first business, I took a course with a coach who taught how to do Google AdWords. This guy with Google AdWords, like the ads, the text ads you see in Google search, they've evolved a lot since 2006 or 7, whenever I took that course. He was like the guru. And like, he was kind of, it's funny. I was just talking to my dad. He was like, have you called Perry and told him what you're doing now? Because you're like basically following in his footsteps. I was like, no, I need to send him an email and tell him what I'm doing, because he was kind of my coach to a different way, but to what I'm doing now, like what very similar. But I did this program with him, and he always told us we paid $10,000. This is the early 2000s. That was a lot of money to go through this course to learn how to do Google Ads. And he told us, he's like, when you do, even before we bought it, it was like, you can buy every piece of information I'm going to give you for $25 in my ebook. But you want to do it for $10,000 because if you pay $10,000, you'll actually do it. If you pay $25, you will not. And I have carried that with me now that I'm in the world that I'm in, that if I give it away for free, they will not do it. If I charge them a significant investment, they will. And I've just seen it to be very true. So because I do believe in the value that I'm providing, I actually think I'm doing people a service by charging them a decent price. I mean, it is good money for me. I'm not going to lie. I make good money for what I do. And then on an hourly basis, what it breaks down to, especially because of some of the stuff I've been able to automate, I am very comfortable financially from what I'm doing, but like I don't deal with guilt over it. Now, it also helps that my clients aren't individual people. So, companies they have the budgets and they can afford it. But again, it's like if they've invested in it, they're going to find real value to it and they're going to run with it, versus if they don't. Even like my course, I've struggled with like, how do I price this? Do I make this accessible to everyone? Or do I, truly accessible to everybody because I'd like them to have the content? But I just went back to, no, you know what? Like when you feel it at least a little bit, you're actually going to apply your education. If you pay $50, you're not going to care. And so, not that I'm not charging $10,000 for my course, but I'm $399. And like, I feel good about that because it's enough money that somebody has skin in the game to actually do the content, actually apply what they're learning. So,
yeah, I can see how you would kind of grow more comfortable with that over time.
Yeah. I've had some unique life experiences that I think just made me more comfortable with higher dollar like anything higher dollar. So like my mom was in the Arabian horse business when I was a kid, and like so I just kind of was around like I can't believe people pay that much for a horse.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's insanity to me. Like somebody just paid, like I mean it wasn't necessarily like her selling, but I was like, here, oh, this person just paid $1 million for this horse or that horse. And I was like, for a
Yeah,
horse?
399 doesn't sound too bad then. Yeah.
So I've done like political volunteer work and raised money just as volunteer, like raised money for politicians and seen people will pay $10,000 for a picture, $35,000 for a dinner. And I'm like, I would never, could never. But people will. So it's like once you realize, and like also something I wish that I had understood at a much younger age that I understand now, it's actually easier to sell something more expensive than cheaper. So like for anybody who is trying to sell like sell themselves, it's actually easier to price yourself higher because people, and I mean maybe this is a little less true in companies, but I think it's true in companies too. But if you have a low price point, the people who are buying from you, they've got to like really think about it and they're going to feel it. And if you have a high price point, they don't have to think about it. Like the people who can afford it don't have to think about it that much. So it's actually easier to close a deal and get a sale at a higher price point.
That's really interesting.
And they also complain way less.
Yeah. So Nicole, this has been so fascinating. I'm going to ask one more question. When I was babbling earlier, one of the points I was trying to convey is that your profession, as you've created, seems like something somebody else could also create and emulate kind of your model. But I would imagine that one of the hardest steps is like getting in, like taking those first steps. And it seems like you had a network. What about for other people? Like how would somebody else take their first steps into doing something very similar to what you do?
So I think that anybody can build their network. Right? Like and that's a skill. Like if you want to get into doing your own thing, learn how to build connections and network. It has never been easier. Right?
Mm.
Most people are awful at it. Like I'm not gonna lie, like most people have absolutely no skill set in how you do this. And they show up in a community and they're like, I want to build a business. And the way they're doing it is by selling. Like they show up in a Slack community or a LinkedIn or whatever, and they just start pumping their selling versus I'm just going to show up and I'm going to have authentic interactions with the people, provide value without asking for anything in return, just like get to know people, build this network, offer stuff to them without it being a sale. Just like, when they ask a question, if you know the answer, you respond to it, you engage with it, you become friends, you show up for the Zoom calls, you show up for the webinars or the meetings, or maybe it's in person, but it's not like it's not transactionary. It's like, actually, I just want to make friends. And I just want to get to know people because I feel like where I've succeeded is because I just made authentic connections with the people who ended up being my customers. And then they ended up telling other people about me. It was like either they became my customer or like maybe they never gave me money. Like a lot of the people in these communities never gave me money, but they'll randomly introduce me to a client. And so you never know where the client is going to come from if you put yourself in the environments where you can build those networks. But 5 years ago, I did not have this network. And I didn't even intentionally build this network. It was like, oh, this is just like a group that I am a part of. And I built this network all online. The funniest thing is I've literally never met any of my clients in person or almost anybody. I don't know if I've met anybody I do any kind of work with in real life, which is funny. There's a little bit of a joke in my AI, in my CMO community, my marketing community. That's the primary one where I kind of got my start. They're like, is Nicole AI?
This has been great, Nicole. Really, I think this has been one of the more interesting and I don't know, most insightful episodes that we've done on multiple fronts, not just the AI front, but just thinking about how to be successful in marketing yourself. And it's very clear why you're successful. So I want to thank you for your time.
Yeah, I felt like I've learned a lot too. So thank you so much, Nicole. It's been
You're
great.
welcome. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.